I will call this hearing of the Senate Labor and Industry Policy Committee to order. It's Wednesday, March 30th, about 10 to 9. I apologize. I feel like a real senator now for being so late. So we have one bill in front of us today that is Senate File 3881. And we have an A3 amendment. Senator Dornick, will you move the Senate File 3881 to be in front of the committee? Oh, I'm sorry, it is on the table, so we will, the motion will be to take 3881 off the table. Will you make that motion, Senator Dornick? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. It is off the table. Senator Dornick, will you move the A3 amendment as well? A3 amendment is before us. We will go to testifiers then about the A3 amendment. Oh, okay. Let's have council go over it first. The mic, yep.
Thank you, Senator Rarick and members. So we are looking at the A3 document. There are two articles. The first article contains several Department of Labor and Industry initiatives, funding for those. In Article 2, Section 1, the first section is from Senator Housley's bill, Senate File 62, and it would amend the window cleaning safety. It starts on line 4.3. And it states that the code shall incorporate by reference the nationally recognized safety standards for window cleaning. And this was it's a version of language that came out of a working group that reviewed the issue about window cleaning safety, I think, over the interim. And so this is the language that is being put forward. Section 2 is these are the building permit fees, the decreases. The difference here from the original version in 3881 is that the changes, the reductions would become permanent, and they would be retroactive to October 1st, 2021. That's on line 5.20. Then sections 3 to 11. This comes from Senator Rarick's bill 2442. These are modifying the elevator code, changing some definitions to clarify what is included in elevator work and what is excluded. So those are sections 3 to 11. And then we go over to page, let's see here, page 8. Sections 12 and 13 are another Senator Rarick bill. This is from Senate File 181. And this is a bill that was heard, I think maybe last week. And it's specific to load control for exclusions for electrical inspections. And in section 13, it clarifies what needs to be done for those load control exemptions, that the work needs to be conducted by Class A electrical contractor, and then that the utility, if there's a deficiency or code violation found, the deficiency needs to be reported to the homeowner or the owner within 10 calendar days. So those are those two provisions. Then section 14 to 18 are from Senator Rarick, Senate File 183. And this, we heard also testimony on this bill last week as well. And this is regarding some exemptions for individuals that are performing backflow prevention work in the landscape setting. And so these provisions, 14 to 18, would really talk about what work is excluded from certain licenses and from a plumber's license. And let's see, Senate 14 to 18. And then section 19, this is really a technical correction. This was included in the underlying bill, Senate File 3881. And this is a fix. You wouldn't know what it is, but if, I know, and it is the fix for the Work Comp Advisory Council bill. When it was passed by the Senate and then the House, it was missing some effective dates. And so this is just really to clarify that they're effective the day following final enactment, and regarding appointments made on or after that date. So this is necessary to just make sure that it is, that it goes back and changes the session law that the legislature passed earlier regarding the work comp, the presumption dates and all that. So if you have any questions, just let me know. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I will make one note on two of the provisions, especially dealing with the elevator code. And, we know there's some tweaks being worked on with that yet. So that will continue to be looked at and worked on as we move forward. And the load control receiver portion, I know the House is moving a little bit different version, and we will continue to work with them on those two pieces especially. So with that, we will, Senator Isaacson, you have your hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Glad you weren't injured in the garage door accident. Was that the entirety of what you're adding, the new bill, or was there more?
Everything that went over, what Ms. Fontaine went over is what is being put into the bill, the new provisions.
So what happened to, or what was the chair's opinion on paid sick time and leave?
That is a position that we're not going to carry in the Senate. I'm assuming that will be in the House bill, and we will work with them. I believe that is going to match up in Senator Pratt's committee with Representative Knorr's bill, and so we will be working with them through those channels.
All right, that's all I have for right now.
All right, we will go to our first testifier, Commissioner Robertson.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today on Senate File 3881 as amended. For the record, my name is Rosalind Robertson, and I am Commissioner of the Minnesota Department of Labor and Industry. First, I'd like to thank the committee for including two of the agency's supplemental budget priorities in the bill. The funding increase for Youth Skill Training Program will enable the agency to support additional partnerships among school districts, employers, and community organizations to offer safe, healthy, and meaningful work experiences to 16 and 17-year-old student learners. By growing youth skill training, more student learners will be better equipped to enter the workforce, and more employers will have the skilled workers they need. I am grateful that the bill includes the agency request for $1.758 million increase for prevailing wage enforcement. Prevailing wage law exists in Minnesota to ensure projects funded with public money are constructed and maintained by the best means and highest quality of labor reasonably available, and that persons working on public works are compensated according to the real value of the service they perform. The increase will fully fund the current prevailing wage staff employed by the department, as well as additional staff necessary to providing prevailing wage education and enforcement. I appreciate that the bill includes two fixes in Article 2. The CCLD fee reduction language correction in Section 2, and the addition of effective dates to the Workers' Compensation Advisory Council recommendation that became law earlier this session in Section 19. I will note that, unlike the department's proposal, Senate File 3881 does not sunset the building permit and plan review fee reductions on October 1st, 2023. The department prefers this sunset as it provides the department an opportunity to evaluate the balance of the construction code fund to determine whether ongoing fee reduction is fiscally reasonable. The operating budget of the Construction Code and Licensing Division is funded on a fee-for-service and receives no appropriation. Regarding the policy provision in the bill, the department has no concerns with the window cleaning safety provision in Article 2, Section 1. The Construction Code Advisory Council formed a technical advisory group, including experts from the housing industry, building officials, architects, window cleaning representatives, safety consultants, and engineers to review legislation that would have exempted new buildings 6 stories or less with pitch roofs to have installed dedicated window cleaning anchors. This technical advisory group recommended modifying existing law to adopt national window cleaning safety standards that recognize multiple window cleaning safety measures. While the language in Senate File 3881 differs slightly from the language recommended by the Construction Code Advisory Council, we believe it meets the intent and will enable the agency to adopt safe window cleaning standards. Section 3 through 11 of Article 2 provide an exemption from licensing for work on certain elevator equipment. The department does not object to the inclusion of the equipment listed from the definition of elevator work. However, because certain lifts and conveyors would not be outside the scope of the elevator device definition and associated licensing requirements, licensed elevator contractors who install these devices would no longer be able to do electrical work and would have to hire a licensed electrical contractor to wire the devices. The department continues to have concerns with Section 12 and 13 in Article 2, exempting all installations of load management devices from permitting and inspections, not just the replacement of these devices. The department cannot support this exemption without knowledge that all stakeholders in the affected electrical industry believe this exemption will continue to adequately protect public safety. We have engaged with representatives from MREA and IBEW on this topic and continue to welcome the opportunity to find resolution. As we testified at the hearing last week, the department has public safety concerns with backflow prevention provisions in the bill's Section 14 to 18 in Article 2. These provisions remove the requirement to have a plumbing license to test and rebuild these devices. The Plumbing Board, the expert who oversees the adoption of the Minnesota Plumbing Code, discussed this provision at a recent special meeting and unanimously concluded that they do not support this exemption as it has potential to compromise safe drinking water. Finally, I would like to conclude my remarks by sharing my disappointment that several of the agency's supplemental budget priorities were not included in Senate File 3881 as amended. These omissions will inhibit the agency's ability to meet the needs of our stakeholders. First, the Omnibus does not include the agency operating and LEAP grant increase to grow registered apprenticeship in Minnesota and train and reskill the state's workforce. Minnesota has experienced growth in its apprenticeship program over the last several decades. In 1997, Minnesota had 4,667 apprentices. Today, Apprenticeship Minnesota reports 10,841 registered apprentices in 8 industries, There are 194 active apprenticeship sponsors and more than 2,300 participating employers. Those numbers will only grow given the demand for skilled workers. DLI currently receives $100,000 from the Workforce Development Fund each year for LEAP to distribute in grants to 5 community-based organizations for amounts ranging from $12,000 to $30,000 per year. Our grantees have expressed that the funding is so insufficient to establish meaningful programs. An increase in grant funding to $1 million will enable more community-based and nonprofit organizations and tribal governments to implement services to improve the recruitment, the participation, the retention, and the completion of women, people of color, and indigenous people in registered apprenticeship. This proposal also includes a provision that would reestablish the Division of Apprenticeship as a standalone unit. Currently, the Labor Standards Director is also the recognized director of the Minnesota Apprenticeship Program. The programs were merged back in the early 2000s due to several years of ongoing budget contraction. Today, both of the units have grown to the extent that it no longer makes good business sense to have the units combined. Both are very relevant programs and need their own dedicated leadership. I urge the committee to reconsider this proposal. Next, the bill does not include the agency proposal for fair labor standards for agricultural and food processing workers as recommended by the Committee for Safety, Health, and Well-being of Agricultural and Food Processing Workers. The provisions would expand protection and build awareness of workplace rights. Senate File 3881 does not include the agency proposal to allow workers to accrue up to 48 hours of earned sick and safe time to recover from illness, attend medical appointments, care for a child during school leave, or seek assistance due to domestic abuse, stalking, or sexual assault. The COVID-19 pandemic has demonstrated clearly how critically important it is for people to stay home when they are sick. Workers who go to work sick risk spreading illnesses to coworkers, customers, and the public. Too many Minnesotans don't have access to earned sick and safe time and are forced to choose between going to work sick and not being able to meet their obligations. Senate File 3881 also neglects to address OSHA federal conformity, putting Minnesota at risk of losing its state plan status. To be at least as effective as federal OSHA, Minnesota OSHA needs to align its penalties it issues to employers that fail to provide safe and helpful workplaces for their workers with federal OSHA penalties. Conformity would ensure continued federal funding and would also encourage employers to continue to take workplace safety and health violations more seriously and do more to keep workers safe. The bill does not address the issue of increasing greenhouse gas emissions in commercial buildings. The agency proposed instituting an adoption framework for the statewide commercial building code to ensure all new commercial and large multifamily construction is net zero by 2036. Since 2005, Greenhouse gas emissions in the commercial building sector have increased by 15%, particularly driven by higher heating and cooling demands caused by a changing climate. The state is running out of time to make meaningful progress on addressing climate change, and the initiative is an important component to achieving greenhouse gas reduction goals. Senate File 3881 also neglects to provide the agency regulatory oversight to assisting living facilities and assisted living with dementia care facilities licensed by the Department of Health. This proposal would enable the agency to provide construction code reviews and inspections statewide to ensure these facilities designed for the elderly and vulnerable adults meet the minimum safety standards. Another shortcoming of Senate File 3881 is that it does not include the agency requested funding or statutory changes to the Office of Combative Sports aimed at better protecting combatant safety and health. This common sense approach would close regulatory loopholes, improve event security, clarify pre-license requirements for combatants, referees, judges, timekeepers, and ringside physicians, and establish statutory procedure for challenging the outcome of a combative sport contest. I encourage the committee to give the proposal due consideration, as Minnesota plays an important and growing role in combative sports regulations. Last, I regret the bill does not include the agency proposal to provide a 2-year fee holiday for building and construction trade professional licenses, as it would provide economic relief to approximately 87,000 new and existing trade licensees, boiler engineers, building officials, electricians, elevator constructors, high-pressure pipe fitters, plumbers, and water conditioners. I urge reconsideration of this proposal. I thank the committee for your time, and I look forward to continuing to work together on this legislation. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. Next testifier on our list is Dr. Barbara Doyle. Please identify yourself for the record, and you can begin your testimony.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. I am Dr. Barbara Doyle, and I am Workforce Director for the Urban League Twin Cities. I want to start off by asking you a question. What if you were diagnosed with a life-threatening illness? Hearing those words would send most of us into a panic, but the doctor gave you a prescription that could save your life. This information would give you hope. But what if you did not have the necessary funds to purchase this life-saving medication? Well, this was a hypothetical question for you, but this is the reality we are facing. Senators, I work for the Urban League, an organization that has been in existence nationally since 1911 and locally here in Minnesota since 1926. We exist solely to do the same as what you are called to do, which is serve the people within our community. We have done this with various educational and training programs. We do this because those persons who have benefited from these programs will in turn strengthen our overall community. We are constantly evaluating how we can be more effective by looking at what are the needs of the community and diagnosing those ailments. One of the ailments in our communities is not the lack of jobs, but rather the lack of training for certain jobs. Through our experience, the LEAP program has been prescribed as a remedy to this particular societal ailment. But without the necessary funding for this vital program, we are like the person in my earlier scenario. Prescription, but lacking the necessary funds for the medication. I want to close by sharing with you another scenario, a more hopeful one that actually deals with a former client. His name is Julian. His outlook on life was very bleak, and all around him, he did not see many examples of work that was satisfying. And to be honest with you, senators, work that was legal. Julian wanted more out of life. He was looking for the type of employment that was sustainable and give him the ability to support his family. However, he had to work multiple low-paying jobs to make this happen. Unfortunately, Julian chose the wrong path and ended up in prison based upon the choices he made. Upon his release, he found out about the LEAP program at the Urban League. Fortunately, our job developer enrolled him into the program in March of last year. And the job developer was able to help Julian get a position as a union laborer, first-year apprentice in June of the same year. Julian is still employed and making $33 an hour. He continues to live in the community with his family. He has a wife and 2 minor sons. Julian has said, and I quote, "The LEAP program is a game changer, and this program and job have changed my life for my family and me. This is why I am here this morning. Without adequate funding for the LEAP program, we will miss out on the Julians of our society and the contribution they can make to our great state." So Senator Rarick, I implore you to please reconsider the request to increase the funding to the LEAP program. And I thank you for this opportunity to speak to the committee this morning.
Thank you for your testimony, Dr. Doyle. Next on our list, we have Megan Hennon. Please
Thank you,
identify
Mr.
yourself
Chair.
and begin your testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, Megan Hennon with the Associated Builders and Contractors. First, we want to thank Senator Rarick for his work on this bill and his commitment to continued work on addressing some of the provisions we have concerns with. But first and foremost, I would like to pass this or state that ABC has previously testified on the bills we have concerns with, and I would like to hand it off to Mike Johnson with Jaybird Mechanical, who can speak to the plumbing concerns we have on the backflow issue.
All right, Mr. Johnson, can you identify yourself for the record and begin your testimony?
Yes, good morning. My name is Mike Johnson. I am speaking about Section 1418 in regards to the repair and rebuilding of backflow preventers. I appreciate this opportunity to speak. I have been a master plumber in the state of Minnesota for, excuse me, a little nervous. Not too often do I get to speak in front of the boards like yourself. I've been a master plumber since 1998. I've also been licensed in 11 of our surrounding states. I've been plumbing for 30 years. 28 of those years have been with Jaybird Mechanical, in which I've been the plumbing supervisor here for the last 18 years. Jaybird is one of the largest plumbing contractors in the state of Minnesota. We have over 100 licensed licensed plumbers working for us, which we have certified backflow rebuilders, along with many certified backflow testers. We have spent at least 4 years working with all these licensed journeymen and master plumbers to get them to this point, which includes 7,000 hours of documented hands-on experience, hours of classroom training to meet their continuing education requirements, along with additional classroom training to keep them sharp in an ever-changing industry. We invest an incredible amount of money to retain and compensate these plumbers in a competitive market. Jaybird is a little different than most plumbing contractors out there in that we specialize in large multifamily projects throughout Minnesota and the upper Midwest. These types of buildings are supplied by a single water source, very similar to your residential homes. The obvious difference is they are considerably larger and serve many families within these buildings with safe potable water. These single water lines also serve irrigation systems on the outside of these buildings too. Once again, very similar to your residential homes. The major difference with the systems that we work on from a residential home, they are large, complicated systems, and they take an extensive amount of time to complete. Our process for these systems is to first design these systems and have them submitted to MDLI for approval. Once we receive that approval, we spend weeks to months installing these systems. We test them and have them inspected by the authority having jurisdiction in that particular area of the project. We then chlorinate these systems to ensure that they are properly disinfected. Then finally, we turn these systems over to the owner and occupants. Our plumbers specialize in these systems, and it takes years to understand the complexity of them. The backflow preventers you are talking about in this bill are the only thing that separates our plumbing system from the attached irrigation systems on these buildings. So with that being said, I do not support this new language and feel strongly that the licensed certified plumber should be the responsible party when it comes to the repair and rebuilding of these backflow prevention devices. They not only understand these devices, but they also understand the systems that they are tied into, because they are all definitely not the same. I appreciate your time, and thank you for this opportunity to share my thoughts on this subject.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Ms. Hennon, back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And then next with me, I have Joe Newstrom from Aerolift to speak to the elevator provision.
All right, Mr. Newstrom, can you identify yourself for the record, and you can begin your testimony.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the Senate Committee. Thank you for the opportunity to testify this morning on the provisions of this bill that impact elevator licensure. My name is Joe Newstrom. I'm a partner, co-owner, and vice president with Aerolift. We are a Minnesota specialty elevator contractor serving customers throughout the state of Minnesota and throughout the Midwest. In the state of Minnesota, I'm a licensed professional engineer, licensed master elevator constructor, certified continuing ed instructor in the area of elevators and lifts. And currently I sit on the American Society of Mechanical Engineers standards boards for the safety codes for platform lifts, stairway chair lifts, and a number of other specialty elevators and lifts, specifically of the types being considered in this bill. Roughly 10 years ago, I worked directly with the Minnesota labor representatives, other elevator contractors, and other stakeholders to help draft the language for what currently is in 326B.163 through 191. At that time, the language that was drafted specifically included all types of specialty elevators and lifts that are installed, wired, and maintained by specialty elevator contractors. At that time, we created the limited elevator work class, the limited elevator contractor license scope, and the limited master and limited journeyman licenses to distinguish between the specialty elevators and lifts that companies like us do and your passenger elevators and escalators that the bigger companies like Otis, Schindler, and ThyssenKrupp do. That effort resulted in large and significant changes to 326B, again, 163 through 191, which is the elevator section, Those changes were passed and implemented in 2013. The provisions currently in this bill have been improved, but they use ambiguous language, specifically by using the term platform lift in a way to describe equipment that by code and by statute are not considered platform lifts. So platform lifts is a technical term that's used in code and in statute, specifically describes what colloquially is described as wheelchair lifts or accessibility lifts. So the type of lifts that go up in garages, in folks' homes, or platform lifts that might serve a stage or a mezzanine in commercial buildings. By overloading that term in this bill and excluding that equipment described as platform lifts, we create a risk that severely impacts public safety because there are thousands, if not tens of thousands, of platform lifts throughout the state of Minnesota that currently are considered elevating devices, are inspected by the DLI, elevator inspectors. And I don't think it's the intent of this bill to exclude those, but currently the language is sufficiently ambiguous that I think there would be a case to be made that that's what's going on. Second of all, specifically with that language, it's my understanding that the intent of the bill is to permit unlicensed personnel to install industrial type conveyances, known as vertical reciprocating conveyors and lift platforms or lift tables, with the aid of a licensed electrician. So unlicensed installer, licensed electrician to wire the device. But in doing so, currently we're removing the ability of specialty elevator contractors to install those devices without hiring an electrical contractor. So currently it's under the license scope of folks that we employ. They can install it, wire it without requiring a separate electrical license. And it seems to me that an exemption rather than excluding it from the definition of elevating devices would be more prudent. That's all that I have to say on the subject. Thank you for the opportunity to testify again.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Ms. Hennon, any more from?
Nope, that concludes our testimony. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Next on our list is Mr. Mike Johnson.
He has spoken.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Our testimony is over.
That is the last person that is on my list. Is there anyone else who wishes to testify?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and members, thanks for accommodating me. I'm Adam Dunnick. I'm the Director of Government Affairs for the North Central States Regional Council of Carpenters. And I will keep my testimony short. I just want to touch on a couple items that we appreciate you including in the bill. Specifically, I want to thank you for your work on this elevator language. I heard the testimony from the previous speaker, and we'll take a look at it, but frankly, having vetted it through our members and our contractors, through the elevator contractors and their members and the Department of Labor and Industry, I'm not sure that the issues raised are of concern, but if they are, we'll certainly take a look at them since we're looking at that electrical issue as well. I also want to thank you for including the language about, the funding for prevailing wage enforcement. Just to echo the comments that the commissioner said, it's an important work that the department does, and ensuring that members and construction workers around the state are paid the wage that they're owed, and so it's an important issue for us, and we appreciate your support. And then lastly, I just want to ask you to keep an open mind towards the apprenticeship funding that was requested by the department. It's something that we support. And if you take a look at, there's an opinion piece actually just released today that talks a little bit about the importance of apprenticeship programs, bringing people into the construction industry, makes the point that despite the fact that not all the construction industry is unionized, a significantly larger amount of people come in through the union construction programs, through our apprenticeship programs. Over 10 times the amount of skilled trade workers enter these programs than through non-union programs, despite having nowhere near that level of market share. And I think that that really drives the point home that both there's the need and demand out there for it, and hopefully the appetite. I know that you, Mr. Chair, and others here have done everything you can to support careers in the trades in schools and other ways to get into the industry. And so we just want to thank you for that and ask you to keep an open mind towards the apprenticeship funding. But thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for your testimony. Is there anyone else who wishes to testify? Seeing, Mr., is it Myron online?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Mike Muron, and I am the Career and Technical Education Coordinator as well as the Work-Based Learning Teacher at Forest Lake Area High School. And I wanted to speak in support of the increase proposed by the Department of Labor and Industry for the U-Skills training program. As a grant recipient, I know the impact that this program has had on our students, our school, as well as our community. The commissioner mentioned in her testimony about the importance of the paid internships, and that certainly is a part of our program, but that career exposure really begins much earlier on. Through this grant, we've been able to provide what we call career exploration days, where more than 100 representatives representing 80 industries come to our school to share their experiences with students. All of our 2,000 students here at the high school register for those events that take place twice during the year. From there, we also provide about a dozen different tours each year where we take students to the various industries to make sure that they can gain that firsthand knowledge of what the work environment looks like, maybe dispel stereotypes that might exist with some of our employment opportunities, so that they can see and observe the situation that exists out there. In addition to that, Forest Lake Area Schools has always had comprehensive programming that includes career and technical education, but the grant has really allowed us to strategically invest in industry relevant equipment and as well as expand our course offerings. We're going to be adding 4 more courses in healthcare as well as an industrial automation course to help meet the needs that we're seeing based on the labor data that comes in. To enrich those experiences, we've also embedded a number of different certifications, certified nursing assistant, EMT, EMR, veterinary assistant, OSHA 10. Those are the credentials or certifications that have been supported by the grant, but that really has allowed us to think about what other certifications could we offer students that might make them more employable after high school. With all those pieces in place, we're then able to provide students with meaningful paid internships, places like Rosenbauer America, where they're constructing fire trucks, or Team Vantage, where they're manufacturing medical devices, our various assisted living and medical facilities in the area, as well as our veterinary clinics, have all been host sites for our students, where they're not only going to work and fulfilling a needed employment demand, but they're also getting paid themselves and building skills while enhancing their resume. What's probably been most impactful, however, that I maybe didn't expect when we received the grant is the change and the influence that it's had on our school culture and the sustainability of this type of attitude moving forward. Career readiness and career planning has become a core component of our strategic plan that's guiding the district for the next 5 years. That was led by our district administration as well as our school board. We've integrated an employability skills rubric to help teachers teach the core types of attitudes and attributes that our employers are looking for in the classroom and help students make that connection between what's occurring in the classroom and the world of work. More purposeful career and college planning so that we're asking students what they want to do and helping them individualize their plan for that pathway. But probably most importantly is that we've been able to integrate advisory boards in each of our career pathways. Those advisory boards are made up of industry leaders, business leaders in our local community. So instead of us trying to determine what it is that businesses want, we let them in the door and help, and they influence the decisions that we make. So those courses that we're offering, the equipment that we're purchasing, are all being guided by those in our local business community to make sure we're investing in the right way and making good strategic choices. So in conclusion, I thank you for this time. I support the youth skills training funding, that increase that's proposed in this bill. It's going to enable additional schools and organizations to take advantage of these partnerships and really prepare more young people for the workforce. Thank you again.
Thank you very much for your testimony. I am not seeing any other hands, so members, we will go to any questions or comments or any additional amendments. Senator McEwen.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Is this the appropriate time to offer the A4, or shall I also have comments to make on the chair's amendment? I don't know if I should make those comments first or if I should offer the A4 first.
That is up to you, Senator McEwen. You can do it in either order.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I'll go ahead. I would like to offer the A4 amendment, if I might.
All right, so we have the A4 amendment to the amendment. I believe our staff has that. We have some paper copies that can be handed out. Would you like to begin speaking about that, Senator McEwen?
Yes, please. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. The A4 amendment is a sort of simple one, but it will have a real positive effect on some work that we anticipate being done actually in the next few months. So this is an amendment that Senator John Marty has been working on in consultation with the Minnesota Council on Disability. As all of us know, we're anticipating seeing the installation of electric vehicle charging stations in Minnesota pursuant to the ARPA funds coming through from the federal government and just a lot of investment being put there. One of the concerns and that we want to get in front of this for is to make sure that those stations are accessible to people living with disabilities. And so to make sure that they can adequately be able to charge their vehicles and access those stations as well. Just want to make sure that the laws are clear with those installations of those stations, that they need to conform with our laws and with the guidance that we have in the Minnesota Department of Transportation and with our agencies. So this is sort of a work in progress, but we want to get this in as soon as possible, make this part of what we're doing now so that it's not delayed. That really is one of the big concerns of wanting to do it now as opposed to later, because once these are installed, we don't want to open up the possibility that there would have to be litigation to go back and fix these. Better just do it right out of the gate now and avoid some trouble. So I'll stand for questions if anybody has any. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator McEwen. And I guess, so just to clarify, I guess, to staff, this is not something that we're going to be putting into like statute. This is referencing something that's already there. I believe it was put in place around the Volkswagen lawsuit settlement, if I was understanding that correctly. And so we're going to reference that until a new building code is adopted. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Well, Mr. Chair,
That's my
members,
understanding.
so this is similar to what is being done with that Housley on the window cleaning. And it's been done in that section in the code before to kind of just say, you know, until the legislature acts or something happens, this is what we want to be the standard. And then we put it, the amendment has language that would say, so this would be in statute, but it would just reference these technical guidelines. But then once the code is amended or adopted to include this, then this paragraph would expire and sunset and go away. That's what this does.
Okay, so then one follow-up question. If the new code doesn't make any reference to this, would it also go away, or would this continue to be in place and reference this if the new code does not address the handicap accessibility?
Mr. Chair, members, so this would continue to stay in place because you see on line 1.5, it says until the state building code is amended to include accessibility requirements. So, for example, there's another provision, I don't recall what it's for, in this, also in this section, that says until the legislature acts, and apparently they've never acted. I don't know how long it's been there, but it does also reference that it is these documents and any updates to those documents. So that would continue to whatever technical guidelines, I guess, were changed, that would still apply. But, and I don't know if the department wants to speak to this or somebody else, but, you know, it's my understanding that they are going to do this at the next code cycle. So I just, you know, I haven't heard from them. I've just worked with the advocates and Senator Marty, so.
Commissioner, is there anyone from your agency that would wish to address this at this time?
Mr. Chair, we do have the Director of the Construction Code Division on standby to address any questions. Scott McClellan, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah,
My
Mr.
words
McClellan,
get
if
jumbled.
you have any comments you would like to make on this?
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chair and committee members. I'm Scott McClellan, the Director of Construction Codes and Licensing. Currently, our building code doesn't scope or regulate electrical vehicle charging stations. However, that would not preclude us, I assume, from regulating it if statute actually established it as something that we could regulate. So assuming if this were established into law, the Construction Codes Advisory Council would likely convene a technical advisory group of affected, impacted stakeholders to come up with language that we would put in the building code to regulate them appropriately.
All right, thank you very much. Members, any other questions? Senator Dornick.
Mr. Chair, I have a question for Senator McEwen. What is happening now, and what is the urgency of this amendment, I guess is my question.
Senator McEwen.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Senator Dornick, for the question. Well, I just received this last night in full transparency, and this is something that Senator John Marty, again, is working on with the Minnesota Council on Disability. And my understanding is that the urgency piece here is that we are receiving these ARPA funds, and we are anticipating that these stations, these electric vehicle charging stations, are set to be installed throughout the state in the coming months, in this cycle. And the issue, as it's been explained to me, and perhaps our experts can weigh in on this if I get this wrong, but my understanding is that there's a normal cycle that we have for updating our codes. So we could wait, you know, and we will include them in the next cycle. But in the meantime, we need to have something in place to provide that direction and that understanding for the installation that they need to be conforming with what we expect will become part of that next cycle. And so what this does then is it really provides for a more efficient process, because what we don't want to happen is for all of these electric vehicle stations to be installed perhaps over this year, and then for them not to be accessible to a number of Minnesotans. And then that would, of course, be very, very hard for those people and inconvenient for them to not be able to access those stations appropriately. But then it also could lead to a spate of litigation down the road under our laws to make sure that we have accessibility. So we just don't, we can avoid all of that if we take care of this on the front end and get ahead of it and make sure that they're built the correct way from the start. That's the urgency that I understand. They're going to be built this year, and so we want to make sure that it's done right.
Any follow-up, Senator Dornick?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Well, does this language, Senator McEwen, does this language allow DLI to regulate accessibility of the EV chargers or regulate EV chargers generally?
Thank you for that question, Senator Dornick. Perhaps somebody else could speak to that. This is admittedly not my area of expertise, so I might ask if there's somebody else who has that knowledge. Thank you.
Right. Mr. McClellan, is there any chance you it is my understanding it is just the accessibility piece that this is addressing. Is there any chance you can help us understand what is already in place that this is referencing?
Certainly, Mr. Chair and committee members. That's actually a pertinent question. The way I'm reading the bill here, it doesn't appear to be a charge to the department to adopt rules. It looks like it's permissive. So currently, again, our building code does not require EV charging stations. And as a result of that, I'm not certain we'd have the ability to regulate them even for accessibility unless this language were actually requiring us to. That would be my initial take on the matter. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. And it is, as I read this as well, it looks like we're referencing a document from the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency around the requirements for accessibility. And that is what we'd be referencing and asking people to be looking at and following. So, Senator McEwen.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And just to add to my previous answer, I just think it's really important for our committee to recognize that accessibility issues like this there's always an inherent urgency in it. Because if we don't act proactively to make sure that the accessibility is there and it's going to be included as part of this building going forward, then it's going to impact many people's lives and their ability to have agency in our society and in our state. So just to that issue of urgency, there's an inherent urgency in it. Thanks.
All right, thank you. And I am willing to accept this, just other members to know at this point. We can continue to do some looking, and if it ends up it's not what it's said, we will work with Senator Marty as well to bring it into, because I know I exchanged a couple messages with him, and he is interested. He wants the accessibility looked at. So we'll make sure that it is. But right now, I believe this is drafted in a way that we can take it right now. So, any other further discussion on the A4 amendment to the amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, no. The amendment is adopted. All right, any further discussion on the A3 amendment as amended? Senator McEwen?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And I just have some comments overall on the amendment that Mr. Chair has offered to us today. And first of all, I want to thank the people who came to testify. Dr. Doyle, thank you very much for your testimony. Mr. Johnson, Mr. Newstrom, Mr. Dunick, thank you for your feedback on this amendment. I have to say, overall, while there are some provisions that we're glad to see in there, it's a real disappointment. There are some real fundamental pieces of legislation that are not included in this amendment that it just makes it a huge disappointment. And the number one provision I would say is that earned sick and safe time piece. This really affects the quality of life of Minnesotans to have access to earned sick and safe time, to really, if your child is sick, if you need to be there for a family member, to be able to know that you can be there for them and that your job is not going to be put at risk because of that. That's just a fundamental quality of life piece that we're missing right now in our state. Fortunately, we have some municipalities, including my own in Duluth, that have enacted ordinances locally to cover this. But every Minnesotan deserves this benefit. And it's just a very small piece that should be included as part of our quality of life in Minnesota. So it's really disappointing to see that stricken from this amendment. Additionally, the equity and apprenticeship funding. and we refer to these acronyms a lot as a new legislator. It sort of drives me nuts. So I'm not going to use the acronyms as much as we hear them used, but we have this program that provides for more equity within our apprenticeship and training so that more Minnesotans can get into the trades and have really great careers that pay a living, thriving wage with excellent benefits. They can support their families with this. This is a game changer for people to be able to get into the trades. So to see that funding for the equity and apprenticeship program and to not be able to have a director of apprenticeship to actually meaningfully enact this program and see it accessible for people. Again, it's such a disappointment. We could take these steps, we could do these things that are quite easy to do that will make a big difference in the lives of the people of our state. Also, the fair labor standards for agricultural and food processing workers. These workers came to my office recently and offered to me and talked to me about the things that they've been through over the course of the pandemic and even pre-pandemic in regard to safety and in regard to their own standards in their work environment. So to not have those fair labor standards included is, again, just very, very disappointing. And then finally, these, the one piece that I want to sort of emphasize as well, that to see an elimination of the requirement that a backflow prevention rebuilder process that they possess a master or journey workers plumber's license is a real concern. We heard that a lot of testimony the other day in committee about this, and we know that the entire plumbing board had voted unanimously to oppose that particular provision. So I am concerned about that, and it does kind of create a situation where I feel like this bill just doesn't rise to this moment. It really doesn't. It contains a couple of good things, but some of those essential pieces that would make Minnesotans' lives better are just not there. And so it's really unfortunate to see those key pieces missing. Also the provision for commercial energy code changes that would bring us to where we need to be with the climate crisis and net zero. We know that we have to go there. Why aren't we doing the things that we need to do? So unfortunately, I can't support this bill as it's written going forward. And Mr. Chair, I will ask for a roll call vote, please.
All right, roll call being requested. A roll call will be granted. Any other members wish to make any comments before I would make closing comments? Seeing none, just to address a couple of the items brought up. I think our concern around two of the provisions, especially the combative sports and then the meat processing places. It is our concern at this point that it was not enough stakeholders were brought in and discussed the provisions. We are checking in to do some follow-up, especially on the combative sports. But we hear that in the one, it was the working group voted unanimously, but the three ag groups were not present the day of the vote. So we're continuing to do some follow-up there around the commercial building code. Our concerns there. We've had members in the past bring up changes to building codes that have been adopted or electrical code, and we're always hit with these are groups that work in the area. They make these codes, and legislature shouldn't be changing that. And I just see this as being that same thing. The industry, the folks on the national level are making these codes. They know what is available. And if Minnesota starts changing and going forward ahead of that, we are probably going to make commercial building very, very expensive because we're going to be trying for products that aren't readily available yet. So that is a concern that we have there. And I think just, there are a number of things that have been being worked on for a number of years. And just I personally, I have the provisions I've included in here. I have been working with stakeholders. I have made a lot of revisions, trying to get to a point of compromise. And the provisions that I saw come forward from the agency were still their same positions. They had made no compromises. So I spoke with Chair Eklund just yesterday. He and I are going to continue to talk about things. We exchanged with each other what our bills are, and we will continue to talk about all the different provisions that are in both of our bills. So, but with that, I will conclude my comments, and if there are no others, we will go to a vote. And so members, please turn on your cameras and unmute so that as your name is called, we'll have the official recording. Ms. Johnson, will you take the vote, the roll call vote?
Senator Rarick.
Oh, actually, hang on a second. I suppose we should make sure we have the proper motion in front of us before we vote. So Senator Dornick, will you move that Senate File 3881 as amended be referred to be recommended to pass and referred to the Jobs and Economic Growth and Finance and Policy Committee?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
All right, now, Ms. Johnson, will you take the roll?
Senator Rarick.
Yes.
Senator Dornick.
Yes.
Senator McEwen.
No.
Senator Goggin.
Yes.
Senator Isaacson.
No.
On a vote of 3-2, the motion passes, and Senate File 3881 as amended will be referred to the Jobs, Economic Growth, Finance, and Policy Committee. With that, members, there is nothing else in front of us, and that is our end of our official business, but keep an eye on your calendars, and I'll be in communication with everyone in case something else comes up that we want to meet about. Thank you very much, members. And we are adjourned.